Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to the show. Today's show is sponsored by Julio Briones of the Answerman Specialty Services LLC, helping people to plan and prepare for divorce so they can focus on what really matters. My name is Stewart Andrew Alexander, and I have Julio waiting for us on the other end of the line, who is a personal crisis management expert. And we're going to be talking about planning and preparing for divorce. So with that said, let's not keep him waiting any longer. Julio, welcome to the show.
Hello, Stuart. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. So Julio, let's just jump straight in with the first question. Could you, in your own words, just briefly describe what kinds of people do you help and what kind of situations do they find themselves in when they come to you for your guidance?
Well, my typical client is going through what I've coined as a personal crisis. You know, most of the time that's a divorce, and they're overwhelmed. They don't really know what's going on. They're a little bit lost. Maybe as a result of all the things that are going on with the divorce, they're dealing with behavioral issues with their children. They're dealing with maybe some addiction or other problems going on. Maybe the reason they're seeking a divorce is because their spouse has gotten arrested. And it's really the more complicated and difficult situations that generally will seek me out. A lot of times when people start thinking about divorce, they tend to focus on themselves and the immediate situation. They forget sometimes that, you know, what if there's an elder parent? What about the children? You know, children need to be taken care of in this situation. Sometimes they need to be placed into therapy. The children don't necessarily understand what's going on. And just because that child may be a little bit older, it doesn't always make the situation easier to accept. Also, when, you know, as I mentioned a moment ago, with the parents, I myself, my mother is in her 70s. If my wife and I were to get a divorce, that would be a major concern for me. What do you do? Where do you begin? And how do you put all of this together in some sort of a plan so that it doesn't overtake you at the last moment? And that is really a big problem, that short-sightedness and that right now mentality when the issue of divorce comes around.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the misconceptions that are out there surrounding the importance of planning and being prepared for divorce, please, Julio.
The biggest misconception that I have found in the time I've been doing this is that people really believe they can take care of everything on their own. Now, for example, I work with personal crisis. If my car breaks down, I am not going to sit there and pretend to be a mechanic. So with all of these aspects in the divorce, the people try to rely heavily on that attorney, or they try to do it all themselves, and then they quickly figure out that it's a lot more complicated and there's a lot more involvement. And quite frankly, when dealing with an attorney, in many cases, they bill by the hour. So if the attorney is trying to resolve your issue in as timely a manner as possible and do their job as effectively as possible, and you're calling them 3 or 4 times a day because you're lost in your situation because you failed to plan or prepare, you're running up your bill and you're not letting your attorney do their job in as effective a manner as possible. And that's really what tends to trip people up. It costs them a lot more money, and it just really gets complicated.
So in terms of the misconception that you started off speaking about, can you name, and obviously keeping client confidentiality in mind, can you just name one instance where you've actually helped someone to dispel that misconception and to have a positive result?
Well, I actually have a client that I recently finished up with. This client first was referred to me about a year and a half ago. And during our initial phone conversation, we talked about my service and, what additional problems she's going to have. And, she really thought she could handle it all on her own. Her budget wasn't going to allow it, and gave me a number of reasons why. So 8 months later, she gives me a call again. These problems compounded so much because while trying to take care of everything herself, she ended up missing a lot of work. This put her in a bad position in her job. She had to, deal with an older child. A 15-year-old daughter could not accept the fact that they were getting a divorce. This, as time went on, she figured out her daughter was out there getting high, doing things that she wasn't supposed to be doing, ended up arrested with one of her friends. She was trying to figure out what to do with her own mother, who has Alzheimer's. And as the added stress and all of the other complications made her mother more and more dependent on additional care. So all of this combined with the fact that the divorce was not easy. There was property involved. There was an issue of domestic violence. There were actual concerns about her own physical safety, the physical safety of her daughter, and the continuing bothering of her attorney extended the process longer than she had expected. And by the time she called me back, her bill had run up to over $40,000 because she's having the lawyer take care of all these other problems for her. Had she planned and properly prepared for the secondary, the collateral damage of this divorce, more than likely it would have gone a lot smoother for her. And odds are, just from my general experience dealing with this, it would have ended up costing her less because of the time that she wouldn't have taken from her lawyer.
So that misconception of I can do this on my own, or I only just need a lawyer or an attorney, in that particular case turned out to be quite expensive for that lady, right?
Yes, very expensive in both terms of time, money, and additional problems that could have been avoided in the first place with her daughter.
But in the same breath, then, Julio, the attorneys, I just want to paint the picture correctly here. The attorneys are still doing their job, right? Yes, she clocked up $40,000, but the attorneys are just doing her job. So really, the onus is on the client, is it not, to make the right call, the correct judgments on who to actually work with? Am I on the right lines there?
Correct. You're absolutely right. The benefit. Attorneys appreciate my service. Attorneys that I do work with, because of that, I'm able to keep the client calm and focused on what the attorney needs them to focus on, so that they're not being taken away from their primary job, which is resolve the legal aspect of this. So that's really the overall benefit, and it is up to the client. If the client wants to be hard-headed, wants to be determined to do things on their own, like everything else in life, all actions have consequences, good actions as well as bad actions. And failing to plan and failing to be prepared and thinking you can do everything yourself has its own set of consequences.
So in terms of the importance of being prepared for a crisis such as divorce, in terms of planning for that, can you just share one unknown pitfall that the people who you work with, or anybody who may be going through a divorce or considering a divorce, that they should be aware of?
Well, the biggest tip that I would give to anyone is to be prepared. It's not about paranoia. It's not about, negative thoughts and attracting negative energy to yourself. It's about common sense and having good sense. At the end of every problem, it comes down to one simple factor. A problem can be resolved given enough time. A problem becomes a crisis when you didn't plan and you need things done immediately, right? That being rushed, that sense of, oh my goodness, I have another problem to deal with. I'm getting divorced, and now I have problems A, B, and C popping up at the same time. Instead of focusing on dealing with the divorce and reorganizing their life and everything else that's coming on, with that specifically, they're splitting their attention with everything else. So my tip for anyone listening is plan, prepare, get your documents in order, get your professional service providers in order, get extra sets of keys made for just in case, but not just for you. Get these documents and other items together for your family as well. If you have children, if you have adult parents, if you have other people that you're responsible for in your household, make sure you're prepared for yourself and for them.
Julio, it sounds to me that your line of work has similarities to the kind of work that I do, where I work in the prevention field. So I help people prevent certain problems. I'm not going to go into them because that's obviously not the topic of the show. However, human nature, people are more motivated to take action when they are in pain, when it's too late, when the horse has already bolted the stable. Is it that challenging out there just to raise that awareness of just how important it is to be prepared instead of waiting until it's too late? I mean, just how significant is that for you when you're trying to raise awareness about these points of being prepared for divorce?
Well, it's actually a very fair question. And yes, it is, to me, it is the most important thing to get ready. That preparation could save so much time, money, and heartache in the long run. And this is whether I'm dealing one-on-one with a client or in a larger setting, it's that preparation for divorce. Divorce is such a common problem, especially here in the United States. It's prevalent. And I've heard so many times the client say, it caught me by surprise, I was not prepared. Well, it's something that, yes, nobody wants. I married my wife. I love her to death, and my hope is to be with her until, death do us part, as we took our vows. But it doesn't always work out that way. Life happens, and somewhere along the way, it's good to get prepared. And the preparation for divorce will also prepare you for other instances in your life. And this is really what I try to teach my clients, and the message that I try to get out there for anyone.
Can you just share a little bit about your background, your education, your experience as it relates to the topic of divorce?
Well, my company I created, it's a very unique set of services that I do provide. And it all started back when I was a soldier in the Army, that I used to see guys get deployed, come back, have to deal with all of this, and they didn't know what to do. And I used my discipline and training and figured out how to analyze and build these plans to help them get through it. Throughout my life afterwards, I've studied the law, became a paralegal, actually became a gang specialist, volunteered at many different drug and rehab centers, and even with organizations that help battered women and women that are trying to escape out of abusive relationships. I combined all of this with my years of experience helping families plan out what to do with elderly loved ones, whether to put them in with home care or to put them in the facilities, and just combined all of this into this company. It's something that I'm very passionate about, especially that preparation piece, because if someone is going to go through a divorce, what are you going to do once the divorce is done? You still have to plan. You have to plan your finances. You have to plan where you're going to live, what's going to happen. You have to prepare for all of these eventualities. And just seeing it happen over and over with different people in different aspects of my life, it's what caused me to create this company and create the service that I have.
Just share one final insight so that the people can have something to take away.
If you're going through a divorce or have recently gone through one, it's a big shock to the system and to your life overall. There's nothing wrong with going out and getting help and figuring out how to put your life back together. Don't sit and think that it's going to just get better on its own, or that you can figure it out by yourself, or that you can make it happen overnight. Getting help will ease over a lot of problems. It will help you put together the next steps that you have to take. And that is something that will give you, above everything else, the peace of mind you need to move on with your life.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Julio. So if there is anybody out there who would like to connect with you, how would they go about doing that? How would they find you, Julio?
Well, they can visit me on my website at www.Answerman Specialty Services LLC.com. They can actually book a free consultation there, or they can give me a call at 888-447-4921 or 201-898-0914.
Do you have an email address that they could reach you out to?
Yes, it's info@Answerman Specialty Services LLC.com. And we're able to take care of and assist anyone in English or in Spanish.
Thank you so much for your time, Julio. Thank you for sharing with us. You've been very open, you've been very educational, very informational, and you have proved that you are a true educator and advocate for your client's success. And I'd also like to say thank you to you, the listener, for joining us on this amazing interview with one of the top personal crisis management experts around today. I'm Stewart Andrew Alexander. We'll be back shortly with some more divorce professionals in this, our series of divorce-related conversations. So until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present, and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.